You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and I am joined, as always, by your co-hosts, Kevin and Alex. Guys, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good, man. We are coming up on week one. Let the roster baiting commence. Like, it is that time of year. We are done with draft season, and now we are on to managing our fantasy rosters. This is arguably probably the second greatest week in fantasy football because it all starts at 0-0. Everybody has a chance, whether you're trying to defend as your league champion or whether you're trying to come up from the depths of the losers bracket to snatch a couple victories and rub it in people's face. Like, it is just awesome.
It's game week, fellas. I'm so excited to actually see. We just endured the last Sunday without NFL football until February. Like, we just went through that. So it's very exciting that we actually get to see what we've been talking about for the last 6 months while we've been waiting for football to come back. So I'm pumped. I'm excited for games to actually kick off, and I'm excited for the opener that they gave us this year. It's an intriguing one with a lot of storylines and a lot of fun. And for people who are watching Hard Knocks, this is like the payoff of all your hard work of watching that mini series, if you will.
Absolutely. I can't wait. It has been a lot of fun. And you know what? We have not been short of news either this entire week. It has been a very news-filled week, right? We saw Cam no longer a Patriot. We saw the not the Gus Edwards, but we saw the Justice Hill injury come forth. We saw the Le'Veon Bell get signed over to the Ravens. Lots of news kind of coming out here. What did you guys make of some of this news?
I think maybe the bigger one though is Latavius Murray coming off of a really good season down there in New Orleans getting cut. I mean, that kind of was a head scratcher. I know it came down to money, but I don't know. Maybe Sean Payton's getting out in front of his skis a little bit here.
As a Alvin Kamara owner, I absolutely love this though, because now Kamara is not going to be giving up some of these other, some of this goal line work that at times Latavius Murray would come in and spell him with. So as a Kamara owner in a couple different areas, you have to be really excited about this because the one true threat that you had in taking touches and volume away from your first round draft pick is c'est la vie, and now you just have AK sitting there. So those of you who drafted him, congratulations, enjoy it, because here for at least the first 6 weeks, probably, he is going to be the dominant workhorse for this New Orleans Saints team, whether it's all the receiving work or his rushing work, because while Marquez Callaway and Traquan Smith are kind of fun stories, they do not carry the star power or the overall just player ability of one Alvin Kamara.
How long do we think that lasts in Baltimore? Like, how long before Harbaugh says, yeah, I don't want to deal with this headache?
Oh, I probably not too long. He's on the practice squad now. They're going to see how it goes. Honestly, if I were Baltimore, I would be ringing up Latavius Murray right now and say, see ya to Lev Bell, and bring in Lat Murray, who can pass protect. He can catch out of the backfield. He can run. The zone scheme's maybe a little bit different than what he's used to, but he's a smart player. I think he can pick that up. And he's already in NFL game shape. So you kind of check all those boxes. If you have Latavius Murray on your roster, don't go dropping him. Like, now is not the time to panic. Let's see where he falls. Let's see where he ends up with and where he lands, because I think he's going to find an NFL roster rather quickly. This is not going to be some long, drawn-out thing where he's looking for a job.
I guess, the fun thing would be is who plays in an NFL game first, Latavius Murray or Lev Bell this year?
Latavius Murray.
Yeah, I agree. I'm 100% on that one. I don't think it's going to be long before he lands on his feet somewhere. And even you guys all know, we all know this. We saw it happen last year. you know that there's going to be injuries in week one. You know that teams are going to be desperate to fill that running back hole. It's going to happen. If it doesn't happen before, week one games, he's going to find a roster before week two.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So lots of actually rather interesting things kind of going on there. Lots of news to be keeping apprised of. Hey, you're heading into the week one and your rosters and setting those things. So make sure that you guys are paying attention. We'll have more news and notes and some of that through some of our other shows. This is going to be the first week that we bring you an expanded lineup from the good old boys. On Friday night, we're going to be bringing you a game preview show. And then on Sunday morning, you can tune in and talk to me about some of your rosters, ask your start sit kind of questions. We'll have some DFS type of plays on there, so it'll be a lot of fun. On Friday, we're going to go live at 11 p.m. Eastern. Same old spots. Head over to YouTube if you haven't already done so. The YouTube is the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel, and then we're going to go live again at 11:45 Eastern a.m. on Sunday morning there for your start sit kind of questions. So guys, we've got lots of very fun stuff to go through this episode and this week. So we're going to talk a lot about the prediction type of shows, right? We spent all off season breaking down teams, going through the analysis on players, driving all of those kind of, deals to help you win some cash and trophies and help doing some of that. And looks like we have a prediction coming in right there. That's what they call bold from Terezro over there. Sam Darnold throwing 17 touchdowns and 17,939 yards in week one. Yep, that would be a bold, spicy take.
I feel like that would be some sort of record, but I'd have to go back and double check. I don't have those numbers pulled up in front of me, but I feel like it would have to be close to a record if it's not.
It might be. I mean, we'll have to go through and start shifting through the record books there, but maybe. I think he's saying that is with the LMAO right there. So absolutely, we appreciate the comments and folks chiming in. If you're out there listening, watching, throw those things out there. We very much enjoy interacting with folks along the way. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and hit up some of the predictions. It is the prediction show here, and we're going to start in the divisional side of things. And
before we get into these, though, we used to be just like, hey, let's pick what in the early days of this podcast, let's just pick who we think is going to win the Super Bowl. And now Derek has gone and expanded this thing out to pick the division winner, pick these individual award accolade winners, pick who's going to be in the conference championship game, pick who's going to be in the Super Bowl, and then pick your Super Bowl champion. And I'm just saying we're getting maybe a little out in front of our skis here a little bit, but hang on to this episode, because when we're right and we say I told you so, it will inevitably happen. Just hang on to this episode.
Right. When you pizza when you should have French fried, you're going to have a bad time.
You're going to have a bad time. Yes.
You're going to have a bad time. So let's go ahead and let's start over there in the Alex's favorite division from last year, with a division that he kept constantly saying that nobody wanted to win it.
Favorite thing ever.
Yep. That's the NFC East. So lots of teams out there. There's a lot of moves happening with this division and some intrigue coming in there. So guys, go ahead and throw out your divisional winner for the NFC East.
I am going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to say that Dak Prescott is enough to carry them to a division title. The defense, we'll see if they're better. They brought some new pieces in, really focused in on around the draft. We'll see if the offensive line can hold together. And as you guys have heard listening to this show, I am on for the resurgence of one Zeke Elliott. So this has to be the pick for me. I'd be completely going against everything I've said for the last 20 weeks if I picked a team other than the Cowboys to win this division.
Although, as Alex calls it, a tease here, make sure you stay tuned a little bit later in the episode as we get to one of those where you may hear Kevin have to defend some Zeke love there, coming from Kevin himself. So that should be a lot of fun. Alex, who do you got winning this division?
You go first, because then I will reveal my pick. So you can go first, Derek.
Okay, so I've also got the Cowboys as well, for several reasons. One, I think that offense is just going to be too much to contend with, so they're going to be able to put up points and light up the scoreboard, and it's going to be a boat race to just see who can keep up with them. I don't know that there's enough firepower on the offensive side of the ball for the rest of these teams in this division to be putting up 35, 40-point games when they're playing the Cowboys to win those types of things. The other reason is that there hasn't been the same divisional winner of this conference for the last, back to 2005, I believe. So we're going on many years now where we're just constantly changing out divisional winners, which means that it's somebody other than Washington. If that tradition kind of holds true and what we've seen play out, and I think it will. So that had something else to do with it. If it wasn't going to be the Washington football team, it was going to have to be somebody else. And I think the Cowboys are the next, are the other team that's in contention for that.
Yeah, and you guys make great points, and I agree with everything that you've said, which is why I've taken the Washington football team to repeat, because you're forgetting one tiny little thing, and that is that Dallas is not allowed to have nice things. So something's going to go awry this season, and it will be, I think, another case of who doesn't want to keep playing, and Washington football team will be the one that will be at the top of the bottom when it's all said and done.
I don't like that take at all. I don't like that take. I have way too many Dallas Cowboy players on too many of my fantasy rosters for it to even consider that as a possibility. So no, Alex, no. Let's go ahead and head on over to the NFC North. What are you guys' thoughts here on the NFC North?
This is the Packers division until someone rips it from their hands. And as long as Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, at least for now, no one's going to be able to do that. There was no team that made that much of an improvement for me to even worry about the Packers not being able to kind of take this division and run away with it.
Yeah, I'm on board with that too. I think the Packers, nobody else has showed me anything that would make me believe that they're going to take this division. We'll see how long the Andy Dalton experiment lasts in Chicago before Justin Fields takes over. I think by the time that happens, Chicago season will be in question. The Vikings are still the Vikings, and the Lions are going to be really rough. So it's the Packers division to lose, and I will be shocked if they do.
Yeah, I'm going with the Packers. When you've got Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, tweeting some last dance type of things there, that just gets me all sorts of excited to see what they're going to actually put on the field if they're kind of coming into it with that mindset and that us against the world kind of mentality. So could be a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and head over to the NFC South. Who do you guys got here?
The defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers will repeat as division. Well, I guess they didn't win the division last year. They will come through the South as division champions this year.
Yeah, I think they get off to a much better start than they did last year. And Derek's been preaching this whole year 2 under Bruce Arians thing that this conspiracy theory that he keeps throwing out there. I'm buying into it. So Tampa Bay with Tom, that's a lock.
Conspiracy theory or analytics? I mean, maybe they're one and the same. There's a conspiracy theory, and there's exactly. So, I've got the Buccaneers as well. Right, the year 2 under Bruce Arians. I think you'll see Tom Brady and this offense take a step forward, which is actually scary to think about if they take another step forward from where they finished off last year. But the fact that the Saints have had to move their first home game out from away New Orleans with everything going on down there, and it doesn't look like they may have to move another game. I think that's week 4, week 5 when they would have their next home game. The Saints may not actually play a home game until after the midpoint of the season. So that makes it a little tough for kind of the next team in that division that really can compete for that divisional title to win one of those when you're not going to be playing at home for the first half of the season. So thus also kind of feeding into why I think the Bucs will walk away with that one. The NFC West, what do you guys got here?
I'm the contrarian among us, so I will start here. I've picked the Seahawks here, and for as much dysfunction as I think the Seahawks have, for some reason, Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson, and company, they just seem to figure it out year in and year out, no matter what goes on. So I've gone with the Seahawks here, although I still believe that 3, if not 4, of the teams from the NFC West make the playoffs this year.
Bold take, Cotton. I think it's possible, but I have the Rams winning this division. They have the best defense, arguably in football, but in this division, I think they have the best defense. They have their newly acquired quarterback in Matt Stafford. So as long as Stafford can stay healthy, I do think that we will see kind of the next evolution of this passing game that we did not see with Jared Goff, and it's going to propel the Rams to the NFC West division title.
Yeah, I've got that same thought there as well, that the Rams will win it, right? The defense is just too much to contend with on this, I do believe, and the fact that the offense went out and got their quarterback, went out and got their guy, and while you may not see a ton of difference there as far as the statistical output goes, you're going to see a lot of difference in far of how that game is thought through from that quarterback position. So I'm going with the Rams here as well. In Trip Play Fantasy, we just had Eric on from those guys a couple weeks ago on the show. He's saying that the 49ers, he hopes, will be the NFC West champion. All right, guys, NFC is in the books. Let's go ahead and head over to the AFC side of things, and we're going to start over there in the East. AFC East, who do you got?
This is the one division I wanted to pivot on. I really wanted to go New England here. Something about this just says New England.
Right.
But that being said, I think the Bills showed me enough through last year and their ability to kind of conquer their demons, if you will, and get into winning the division and then getting into the playoffs and being able to kind of make a little bit of noise in there before they met their demise. But I expect the Bills to repeat as division champs here. I don't think the Patriots are quite ready, but it is going to be a lot closer than a lot of people expect that division to be. The Bills will not run away with this. New England will keep them in check.
So the most important position in all of football is
center.
So I was going to go for the guy that stands behind him, but yes, I guess
the running back
works. No.
Quarterback.
So the quarterback
the most important
is the most important position, and I'm going to go with the guy who's started more than a handful of games in the NFL in this division, because none of the rest of them have in this division. You've got Zach Wilson, who's never started a game. You've got Mac Jones, who's never started a game. You've got Tua, who was kind of in and out and got benched for Ryan Fitzpatrick in games that mattered the most. And then you've got the guy that actually has not just NFL starting experience, but playoff experience as well, and a filthy defense to go along with it. So I'm going to go with the Bills because they have experience, which is a weird thing to talk about, somebody other than the Patriots having experience in the AFC East.
Right. And I ended up going with the Bills as well. I was right there with Kevin. I was almost going to go with the Patriots here. But the fact that they've got a rookie quarterback coming in, I think that will, belay some of that, as well as the fact that it just seems like a very Belichickian thing to go out and do, and just to prove everybody wrong when he gets all of those starters back on defense that opted out last year, and they were almost that 500 team last year. And so I ended up going with the Bills, but it was close for me on this one. Sorry, Bills Mafia. I know that y'all will be flooding the DMs there in a little bit, but all righty, let's go ahead and talk about the AFC North. Who do you guys got here?
I'm going to go with the Ravens here. I think the Steelers, we kind of saw some of their flaws, and a lot of it's revolving around the offensive line. And as good as Najee Harris is, yes, the Steelers are trying to retool and revamp that offensive line. Yes, their defense is good. They're really good at pressuring the quarterback, but when they go up against teams that have I'm going to say better than average offensive lines, that defense can struggle a little bit at times if they're not getting that pressure. The back end is still susceptible. We saw that towards the end of the season. And for all these reasons, I don't think the Steelers are quite there to win the division. It will be close, guys. Like the Browns, Ravens, and Steelers are all going to be right there. So I don't know that anybody, or that I could truly fault anybody for picking one of those three teams to win the division. But I have Baltimore doing it. I think we're going to see a little bit of a bounce back in their offense. I think Lamar Jackson is going to not touch the 2019 numbers, but I think he's going to come closer and kind of hit his draft capital as far as fantasy football is concerned, a little bit better than what he did in 2020.
I went with the Steelers in this one because for some reason, they're always there at the end of the year, even with the ghost of Ben Roethlisberger playing quarterback. I still think that the Steelers find a way to, eke out some wins. And honestly, I'm a little nervous about what the Ravens are going to do offensively with J.K. Dobbins gone. I know that they can plug and play, but I'm still a little bit nervous about what that offense is going to look like without him back there. So I've gone with Pittsburgh.
Which number is greater, Baltimore Ravens rush attempts or Baker Mayfield pass attempts?
Ravens rush attempts.
Yeah, I think I've got to go that route too. It's close though.
That's good though. That's a really good one. I like that.
I'll be the contrarian there. I'm going to tell you it's Baker's pass attempts.
That's fair.
I think that offense in Cleveland is going to do some really cool things this year and kind of take that next evolutionary step in Stefanski's offense. And we're going to see Baker, I'm not going to say air raid offense, but we're going to see what this offense truly is supposed to do. And it's not run the football first, guys. Like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, as dominant as they are on the ground, like we're going to see this offense lean towards more of a slight pass-heavy offense as opposed to a true balanced offense that we saw last year. Now that they've made some changes and the defense should be much improved, which means that they won't be they're not going to be as worried about some of the chances that Baker might take.
I think Ravens rush attempts, but that's only because I would include Lamar's rush attempts in that.
His are included
Fair.
in that.
All right.
Yeah, team rush attempts, Lamar included.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think they'll run the ball somewhere around 480 times. Like I just see Baker being able to toss. I think Baker's going to throw more than 500 pass attempts.
Right.
Fair.
I would agree with you that Baker's going to throw the ball more than 500 times. But where I've kind of got the line at is I think that the Ravens are going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of about 550 to 560 total rush attempts when it's all said and done, right? Like you look at it last year, you had about 1,000 plays being run on average over the course of the season. You get to add another game in there. The Ravens always tend to lean towards that run game and tend to be more in that 55 to 57% run to pass ratio type of thing. So the fact that I think the Ravens are going to run the ball somewhere around that 550 to even call it 570 as far as total number of rush attempts go. I think Baker's going to be right around that and probably get close to 550. But if I had to pick the line at Baker throwing the ball 550 times and the over under, I'd take the under, and I think the Ravens will run just a little bit more than that. So it's close for me.
I'll bet you Pepsi, just as a gentleman's bet.
Done.
All
Alex witnessed
and signed. Go ahead.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right.
Moving on.
All right. So I like it a lot. I'll be a Pepsi richer at the end of the season. So let's go ahead and talk about the AFC.
Derek,
South.
you got to give who you have for the AFC North.
Oh, I've also got the Ravens as well. A lot of that has to do with the fact that that defense is looking scary, and the fact that they're going to be able to control the clock and play behind that defense as well. And you've got one of the most dynamic playmakers at quarterback in the entire league. That says very good things, and I think they'll do some really big things this year. So I see them winning that division, but it is going to be close between the Steelers, the Browns, and the Ravens. AFC West, who you got? I'm sorry, AFC South. I almost skipped the South. Let's go ahead and talk about the AFC South.
We probably could skip them. Go ahead.
I'm picking Tennessee only because the Indianapolis Colts schedule is so ridiculously difficult that they're going to have to catch lightning in a bottle a couple different times for them to be able to win that division, just based off of who they play in their outside the division. So I'm going to take Tennessee. Indianapolis is who I wanted to pick, but man, oh man, they're just in a murderer's row there in Indy, especially for the first 6 weeks of the season. So Tennessee for me, I don't have the greatest amount of confidence. This is the least confident in any of the divisions that I'm picking. But this is where I'm going to, plant my flag that Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry will get the Tennessee Titans back to the playoffs.
I agree with you, Kevin, but I picked Indianapolis. And I am unbelievably down on, and you guys will be shocked to hear this. I just am not trusting Carson Wentz to get it done out there in Indy. I don't know. I don't know that he's going to play most of the season. The problem that he runs into is he is vocally unvaccinated, and that's going to play a role in games this year because of the close contact, because of the NFL protocols. It's going to play a role in games this year, whether or not he's allowed to play, whether or not he's allowed to be in the facility. And that's going to play a role. And that's why I think that, I just think he's going to inevitably miss some time, be it because he's a close contact or because of, all these other, other things that the NFL has in place. And I just don't know that it's going to work out for the Colts. On top of that, their schedule is incredibly difficult. The first part of the season. So I'm down on the Colts. I really am. But I still pick them to win this division.
I was going to say,
may I contend that it's not a vaccinated or unvaccinated thing more so than it's just a COVID thing, because we're seeing a ton of players who are vaccinated and coaches who are going to be missing games this season.
But the NFL rules are different for those players that are vaccinated versus the ones that aren't vaccinated. And it's just going to be a
you get popped on a Friday and it don't matter whether you're vaccinated or not.
That's true. That is absolutely true.
Like Monday to Sunday, yeah, that could make a difference. I'll give you that. But if you get popped late in the week, it really doesn't matter. Like, you have to be completely asymptomatic and have 2 negative tests consecutively before the game, even if you're vaccinated, to get released.
Right.
It's just one of those things that we're all going to have to deal with in fantasy, right? Like, I do think that, yes, there's still the topic of vaccinated or unvaccinated, but holistically, it's almost moving past that. Like, we just know guys are going to miss games for a reason other than injury. This is something that, when building your rosters and depth and everything else, hopefully your leagues are smart and they created extra IR spots for COVID, because that stuff's out of people's control. It just is. So hopefully your leagues did that, but that's what's going to be extremely interesting this season, right? Is the number of games big time talent misses due to a positive test, whether they are or not vaccinated, is almost moot depending on the time frame. But it's just something we all are going to have to deal with. We have to be able to be flexible with our rosters because of it. So
this actually brings up an interesting topic here where we can spend a little bit of time and maybe help some folks out there with how do you manage some of this as a league when a player may may test positive, may have to miss some time for that. And you may not necessarily get a chance to get them switched out of a lineup, things like that, because they may test positive right before the game goes, something like that. Some of those types of things. And we dealt with some of that last year. But what would be your recommendation for league-wise out there? For ways to set that up so that everybody can maintain a level of competitiveness amongst their league.
So like with ours, I added an extra IR spot for that. Like it's one of the reasons that, is designated as acceptable to put into the IR spot. Like you shouldn't have to drop Jonathan Taylor if Jonathan Taylor comes down with a positive test of COVID, or Patrick Mahomes or whoever. Like you stick them on the IR, you can fill that spot in day of. And as far as managing the players, about this the same time about the injury compliance, whether a player is active or deactive for the game. Yep. So that part of it I don't feel as bad about, because you should already be paying attention to their status for that week. This is just another thing that you're looking out for within the status. Now, one thing that we did in our league as well is we do fab 6 days a week, right? So Monday through Saturday, we have fab. Sunday, leading up to game time, I did away with it so that way there wasn't a clock and a reset. So if you have to stash a player on game day on your IR because he tests positive, you can at least go out and grab a player to fill your roster. Like it's not going to be comparable talent, right? If Patrick Mahomes goes down, Josh Allen isn't sitting there on your free agent list. But if Patrick Mahomes goes down, maybe Teddy Bridgewater is, and you can at least fill that quarterback position and not take a zero. And that's ultimately what it is, to keep that competitive advantage or just competitiveness within the league is giving guys options so that way they don't have to take a zero. And there's some sort of option for them to try and plug and play. And at that point, you're crossing your fingers and hoping for the best, guys. Like it's no different than if a guy, sprains his ankle in warmups and all of a sudden is out. Like we've seen some weird crap over the years. And, just because Zeke Elliott goes down doesn't mean that you have his full replacement. If you don't handcuff him with a Tony Pollard, then you're left to what's on your bench or on the waiver wire. That's part of fantasy in general.
Yeah. And I would also add to that, just to make sure that your roster doesn't lock at the start of games on Sunday, because those inactive lists for the late games come out later. And I don't know that many leagues still do this, where the roster locks. But with, games on Thursday now and all this other stuff, to make sure that your league is flexible in that you can have the roster spot is still open until the game that player is playing in has kicked off. So just double check your settings on your league. I think more than ever, that is something that is important for commissioners to go through and double check to make sure that those rosters don't lock until the player, the game that player is in kicks off.
Awesome. I like it. I like it a lot. That's some good advice out there. So I've got the Colts also winning. I'm a little more bullish than Alex's, take on them winning the division, but it was a close one as well. Part of that has to do with the fact they play a very tough schedule, but looking at it, that defense is still very good. They've got the offensive firepower to go out there and win games as well. I do think so. While it's a tough schedule, I think that they'll end up pulling this one out and winning that division. AFC West, the home of the Denver Broncos, our hometown team here. Who you got winning this division?
This is as much blocked as the Afc North. Like, honestly, is anybody ever going to challenge the Chiefs in the next 5 years even?
In the next 5, I think it's possible. I don't know that it's happening this year, right? Like,
it's not happening this year.
With all players staying healthy across all teams, right? Just the most even playing field we could possibly come up with. There's just the Chiefs are going to take this division, right? Like the Chargers trip over themselves, even though we do expect them to be better. The Broncos have arguably the easiest schedule in the NFL this year. So
and one of the better defenses too.
I've seen an argument for the Broncos to actually finish second in this division, which, it gives me hope
by a
that
Denver Rider by chance?
No, this was national.
They didn't spend any time in Denver prior to.
No, this was not Schefter. No,
They were not enjoying some of the legalities that Denver has to offer.
I cannot speak to what they do on their personal time, Alex. I don't know. But no, it's the Chiefs division. It's very much the same as the NFC North, right? Like you have to take it away from the Chiefs before you even think of anointing anybody else as champion. I just don't see it happening this season.
Yeah, I don't either. Chiefs are going to walk away with this one, I do believe. So, guys, there's your divisional winners, and we've got that all set up there. We're going to have to revisit this as the season comes along and either take our victory lap or eat our crow, and in some cases, probably both. Let's go ahead and head on over to the conference championship games. So, now that you've named the division winners, and at least some of those teams head into the playoffs, according to your predictions, who do you got going and playing for the conference championship game in both the NFC and the AFC?
I have Bills, Chiefs, and Buccaneers and Rams are my final four.
Okay, I've gone with Colts, Bills, and Buccaneers 49ers as a wild card.
This coming from the guy that was just so down on those Colts. I see how you are.
I think shoot, man.
All they got to do is make the playoffs, right?
I don't know that there'd be a more battle-tested team
right
at that point than the Indianapolis Colts. Like, if they're able to keep it together, honestly, there's something to be said about that. I can see a scenario where that happens because they can't be a soft team to get to that point. And the schedule that they're running during the regular season, that they will be a hardened, seasoned veteran team at that point going through the gauntlet they have.
Right. I've got the Chiefs and the Ravens for the AFC. I've got the Buccaneers and the Rams for the NFC. And that's going to lead us into the Super Bowl. Who do you got playing in the Super Bowl?
I'm going repeat, man. I got the Chiefs and I got the Bucs going at it for the second year in a row.
I've gone with the Killer B Super Bowl, and it'll be the Bills and the Buccaneers.
I've got the Chiefs and the Rams myself. That leads you to who wins it all?
I've got Tom. I'll take Tom.
Take Tom for the win, Alex.
It's it's hard to bet against Tom Brady, and God bless it. I'm a Peyton Manning truther.
Yeah, me too.
And it is hard to bet against Tom Brady.
I don't know. I think with him leaving New England and having the success down there, I don't know what happened. Maybe I'm getting soft in my old age. Or maybe it was the fact that he's no longer in the same conference as the team that I cheer for most weeks. But to see him go down to the NFC, I have become a Tom Brady fan.
It's easier to watch him and enjoy what he's doing in the NFC than it was in the AFC. I'll give you that.
It's so much more enjoyable to see him do it to some other conference than the one that my team is in. So I'm all in on Tom Brady. And for him to keep doing it at the age that he's doing it, I'm here for it.
Awesome.
I'm going to tell you the Chiefs. I'm going to say that they learned something, and that Patrick Mahomes learned, and that they're not going to have their right and left tackle go down 2 weeks before the Super Bowl and have to scramble across all offensive line positions to form a unit that can protect Patrick Mahomes. And we'll see if their defense is improved. I know they added a couple pieces on the back end to help out the secondary. We'll see how much that helps, but I guess possibly a passing of the torch. I mean, we've been saying this for years, so God only knows, but I'm going to say that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid learn from their mistakes and conquer their demons.
Gotcha. Yeah, you never know that sooner or later that passing of the torch has to happen. But but we have yet to see it. Who knows? This year could be the year. I'm going to go with the Chiefs as well. They're going to be playing the Rams, and Chiefs are winning the dance this year. Let's go ahead and head on over to some award winners and lots of individual awards here. But let's start with the MVP. Who do you see winning the MVP this year?
Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray was on track to shatter Lamar Jackson's 2019 records last season before his shoulder injury. And once he got dinged up a little bit, he regressed pretty quickly. But with Kyler Murray, we're going to say he stays healthy because hope springs eternal. We're going to see more of the same. And I expect him to be close to, if not slightly over 5,000 yards and over 1,000 yards rushing. Like, there's a lot of touchdowns that come with all that production, guys. So I'm going to say Kyler kind of comes in from a little bit behind the pack, right? He's not the lead name, but he's going to be the guy who takes it all.
So this might be a product of the fact that as I was filling this out, I was trying to convince myself of which teams belong in the Super Bowl, which teams are division winners. I was just kind of going down the list like we are now, and I convinced myself that the Bills are going to be really good this year. And the only way that the Bills are going to be really good this year is if Josh Allen has an MVP caliber season. Although I don't think he needs to do it all by himself. I think that team is really good, but I will take Josh Allen to be the MVP this year.
And I can get behind that because I think most quarterbacks not named Josh Allen who have more than 3 years worth of service in the NFL, if they would have put up his stat line from last year, it wouldn't have been Aaron Rodgers who won the MVP. If Matt Stafford or Matt Ryan put up the numbers that Josh Allen did last year, one of those two guys would have been MVP. Like, this was the, hey, welcome to the show year. And so they let it slide. Repeat performance. And I can get behind that, Alex. And he's going to be your most valuable player.
Yeah. I went with a different quarterback as well. So finally one that we were all very separated on here. And I went with Dak Prescott, who I've actually got projected to potentially break some records this year. So that's who I've got as far as the MVP goes. Guys, let's go ahead and talk about defense. Who do you got as the defensive player of the year?
This is one of the few times that Alex and I actually agree on something, so I'm wondering if I need to change it. But,
you might need to.
Aaron Donald, man. Arguably the best defense in the league with the Rams and the best player on that defense. He is still just absolute hell to deal with in the interior line. He eats up two guys every single play, and if he doesn't, he's getting after your quarterback. So he is a game wrecker, and he is a guy that, quite frankly, could easily win it again, almost running away with it, just by all the chances that I think he's going to have with the team, with the Rams leading late in games.
And Derek, I do like who you have taken. I think it's between these two guys. But I've gone with Aaron Donald as well. I just think that he is such a force on the defensive line at a position that it is hard to be a focal point when you've got all of these edge rushers and linebackers, and for him to be playing in the middle of that defensive line and being as good as he is, I just think that he's, king of the hill at the moment, and it's going to take an all-world performance. And I mean an all-world performance for somebody to knock him off.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. However, I wanted to be different, so I took TJ Watt. So I think
he's got it. I do. I think he is the one guy that I think could do it.
Yeah. Comeback player of the year. Who do you got here?
It's got to be Dak.
Yeah.
Like, coming back. It's the most important position in all of sports. It's the most high profile position on arguably the most high profile team in sports. Yankees fans would argue that. Okay, we can debate later. But if Dak Prescott is remotely as good as at least Derek and I know Alex thinks he'll be good, but I don't think he's quite on the level that Derek and I are. But if he's remotely as good as you and I think you are, Derek, there's no other choice but Dak Prescott.
Right.
I agree with that. It's Dak Prescott's award to lose, just like it was Alex Smith's award to lose whenever he came back last year. Like, we knew that he was going to be the comeback player of the year. Shoot, it was Peyton Manning's award to lose the year that he came back and played for Denver. Like, these awards are really, handed out at the beginning of the season. So honestly, the fact that Dak gets back out there after the horrific leg injury that he had, the fact that he's able to come back and play in an NFL game, like, I think that's going to be enough for all these AP writers to be like, yep, it's Dak Prescott. So that's why I've picked to be the comeback player of the year, because I was looking it up. Criteria isn't that you didn't play because of an injury or you're coming back off of an injury. It's that you didn't play the year before, or it's, numbers from the season before. I think Jameis is going to do some special stuff down there in New Orleans. I don't know that it's going to be enough that will translate to wins. But Jameis is going to open some eyes down there. Not that he, was poor when he was in Tampa Bay. Sure, he threw a lot of interceptions. He also threw a ton of touchdowns too. But I mean, this is Dak Prescott's award to lose, but I was trying to be different. So I went with Jameis Winston.
That's all right. I like it. I took Dak Prescott there as well. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Who you got here?
I'm going Justin Fields. I think we're going to see something special from him. I think he's going to take over in Chicago faster than a lot of people might be anticipating who aren't in Chicago, right? Like, the people in Chicago are pounding the table like, why are you starting Andy Dalton? I think they're trying to not get him killed by our defensive player of the year in his first NFL game. And then we're going to see this loosen up, because Chicago's schedule is not overly simple either. We were talking about the Colts. Chicago has a very difficult schedule coming out of the NFC. But I think Justin Fields is going to take over, and we are going to see him be very dynamic. We're going to see his legs in motion. We're going to see a passion and a fire out of these Chicago Bears that we haven't seen in a few years. And it's just going to lead to that attention, on top of the fact that, he's a high profile first round pick. So that always helps.
Yeah. I like what you're saying there. And I think that, quarterbacks, obviously, with the amount of rookie quarterbacks that we're going to see this year, taking a rookie quarterback to be offensive player of the year is probably the smart way to go. But I'm going to go with Najee Harris, because I think that him in Pittsburgh, it could be, shades of Lev Bell when he was there during that run. I think Najee Harris has got it. I think he's on a good enough team that can handle it. And so I can see him putting up some pretty big numbers, and that will get the attention. I just think there's too much negativity surrounding some of these other rookie quarterbacks. The expectations are very high. And I think that when it comes down to a good player on a winning team that contributes to winning, will probably get the Rookie of the Year.
You very well may be onto something. I went a different route. I went with a guy that I think is going to take some people by surprise, because we haven't really heard much hype coming out about this guy. We also haven't heard anything really negative coming out about this guy. And he was taken second overall, playing on a team that has been traditionally not very good as of late. So I've got Zach Wilson winning this one. And I think that a lot of that's going to be because he's going to put up a very solid performance in his rookie year. And the Jets, I think, are going to surprise some folks out there with how many wins they end up eking out on this season here. So I've got Zach Wilson on a pretty good rookie year there. Let's go ahead and talk about defensive rookie of the year. Who you got?
I have Micah Parsons for the Cowboys. I was very disgruntled that the Broncos didn't go middle linebacker. I like Patrick Surtain. This is nothing against him. I've been on and on about this during our show, so I'm not going to rehash it, but I think Micah Parsons, we're going to see him do a lot of different things there in Dallas. He is a 3-down linebacker. He can cover. He can get sideline to sideline. He can stuff the run. Like, I just think he's going to, the people are going to take notice. I see him with, probably 118 to 135 tackles, something like that. And then it just comes up of, fumbles, fumble recoveries, interceptions, which are really hard to predict for defensive players. But as far as usage in the middle of the field, he'll have 100+ tackles and probably lead the Cowboys in that category, and we'll take notice.
I like Micah Parsons too, but I did go with Patrick Surtain for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think he's going to be good. That Broncos defense is going to be good. Whether or not the offense can match their level of play is a topic for a different time. But I think that defense is going to be good. And I think as a rookie, some of these quarterbacks, they're going to test him. And I think he's going to have an ample opportunity to prove how good he is. It's tough for corners because, once you develop this, this mystique, this aura of, we think back to Revis Island, right? Like quarterbacks are just going to stay away from whatever side of the field you're on. If Darrelle Revis was over there, right? You remember, like that was how it was. And so it takes time for these corners to develop that. I think Patrick Surtain has the skill set to do that. And it would break a string of defensive ends and a linebacker. The last corner to win Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Do you guys know who it is? Marshawn Lattimore for New Orleans in 2017.
Okay.
Not that long ago.
No, Darius Leonard, Nick Bosa, Chase Young. Those are your most recent.
All right, I like it.
So what does that? 6 picks? If he does 6 picks and has an A coverage rating, whatever PFF is using for that metric. But I mean, if he's top 15 in the position and has 6 interceptions as a rookie, does that do it for you? You think?
I would say so. I think if you get to that 6 number, I think that's really good. I also think if you have some good, force a fumble, get in the backfield a little bit, some tackles for loss, I think that works.
Right.
Which he can do. That's the one good thing about these Alabama products, right? Is they're not afraid to tackle. These guys will stick their nose in and go after the football. So it's one thing that the Broncos have been lacking in years is for the longest time, they didn't want any Alabama players on this team for whatever reason of John Elway's crappy drafting. And now here you go. Back-to-back years, you take first-round Alabama talent. Hopefully we start seeing first-round Alabama success here back in Denver shortly.
Yes, I went with Micah Parsons as well. Let's go ahead and we'll hit the next 2 categories quickly because we've covered so many fantasy things on this one. But who you got scoring the most fantasy points total this year?
Kyler.
Was that one? I think that was one.
No, I was actually talking to myself. I meant to be muted because I had to get back to the show doc to see who it was that I texted.
I went too quickly. Do I need to come up with my reason? For all the reasons that I think he will be MVP, apply that to most fantasy points scored because I think he will combine.
I found it. I found it.
Okay, I'm done.
I got it.
Okay, Kyler.
I guess I'm going Patrick Mahomes to contradict myself because I thought Josh Allen's going to win the MVP. So therefore, Patrick Mahomes will score the most fantasy points.
Well, there you go. I've got Dak Prescott for, again, see all my reasons above. Most fantasy points scored that is not a quarterback.
I had to be the contrarian here. I said Dalvin Cook. I think that team's going to be so bad, but I still think they're going to try to get Dalvin his during whatever chance they can. So I think Dalvin Cook is able to score the most non-quarterback fantasy points.
Yeah. For me, it's CMC until it's not.
I'd agree with that. I think that Sam Darnold, while having a better team around him in Carolina than he ever had with the Jets, he's going to find very quickly that when in doubt, CMC's right there, and he does really good things with the football in his hands. So we're going to see a lot of passes thrown his way.
That yak is nice.
Yes. Alrighty, guys. So that's going to wrap up the predictions, award winners, divisional calls, all of that kind of good stuff. We're going to go ahead and head over. There's a game that's getting played on Thursday night. Cowboys, Buccaneers open the season. Tampa Bay has a line of -8 and the over-under is 52. What are your thoughts on this game?
Tampa to cover?
Uh-huh.
Like, I just,
yep.
I just don't see how the Cowboys keep it within 8. Their defense is still young and developing. this Tampa Bay, at least the rushing defense, yeah, they can get caught in the secondary a little bit. So there are some weapons that Dallas can implement to do this, but they're going to be really one-dimensional really early on, and I think Tampa is just going to cover through that. I wouldn't be surprised if Tom Brady had 325 and 5 for this game just to kind of put on a show. It'll be fun to watch, but I think Tampa covers the 8. I'm going to take the over because I want to see Star Wars numbers to start the year. And this is how 2021 is going to kick off.
I like Tampa to cover, and I also like the over. And I think Tampa puts up a 40 spot.
Co-sign on everything you guys just said there. Taking it a level further for fantasy. Anybody on this field that you really want to put in your fantasy roster?
Everybody on Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Robert Gronkowski.
Well, all of them. Hell, I mean, I think that there's the chance Gronk might be the one that I'm not starting just because Brady's going to have his show everywhere else. They typically they hold Gronk's production back at the beginning of the season. They know that they want him to last throughout. So I don't expect Gronk to have a big game. But I think Godwin, Evans, and AB are all really good fantasy starts, whether it's your wide receiver 1, 2, or flex, depending on which guy and the situation you're in. Obviously, you're playing Tom Brady. The running backs are if you have to. Late in the game, they're probably going to be running the ball a little bit more to ice the game away. So you'll see some Super Bowl Lenny and some Rojo action later on. As for the Cowboys, passing game, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, and Michael Gallup. Hell, throw Blake Jarwin in there. The passing game for the Cowboys is what I want a piece of. It's not as much the running game this week.
So here's the question then. You have to play, or you can only play one Tampa Bay running back. You have the 3 of them at your disposal. I'll throw Gio Bernard in there as well. You have the 3 of them at your disposal. Which one are you taking?
Rojo.
Yep.
I was also going to lean towards Rojo.
I was going to say, Alex, I'm pretty sure you've got a fantasy roster of yours out there that has every one of those running backs on a single roster. So
probably.
So yeah, no, I would lean Rojo as well, just from the standpoint that I think you'll see the Bucs kind of ice that game towards the end, and you'll just see them, send Rojo out there and let him run up the gut and just kill the clock a little bit. So I think he'll get some of those garbage time yardage points for sure.
Well, and if one of those guys is going to break a run, it's going to be Rojo. It's not going to be Fournette or Gio that can break one, but Rojo could theoretically, we've seen him do it, right?
Hey.
He can break one for 70, 80 yards if things fall in his direction. So it wouldn't shock me if he sprung, a 30-yard run to pad his stats a little bit and end up being the most productive running back in this game.
Right. Yep. I like it. Cool. Guys, let's go ahead and head on over to this is one of my favorite segments that we brought back from last year. Alex, I'm going to let you go ahead and take it away.
All right. So this is a segment that we came up with. I think it was last year, that it was a pine and a shine. And it's the advice that we give that take with a grain of salt. But it's the advice that we give of guys that we think that we should leave on the bench this week and guys that we think are absolutely going to go off. So that is the reason for the pine or a guy that we think is going to shine this week. And for the record, for this week, I didn't want to do it because it's week 1 and I just want to get a baseline first before we go through this. But in the essence of the show and the fact that we are prognosticators of our own choosing, we're doing pine and shine for this week. But maybe take mine with a grain of salt because reluctantly I'm doing pine and shine this week.
Okay, I thought you were going to lead off with your pine and your shine.
Oh, sure.
So guys,
I guess I can.
Who do you got for your pine? Who do you got for your shine?
I guess I will lead off. I know how to broadcast. My pine is Mike Williams this week. I just think there's too many mouths to feed over there. And I think that they're going to try to do some other things that doesn't include Mike Williams. And I think he's a little more touchdown dependent this year in terms of what he's going to do. And then my shine is Robert Woods, fancy new quarterback over there in LA. I think they're going to want to show that off. I think Sean McVay's got a little, he's got a little proving that he wants to do. And I think he wants to make a statement to start this season. So what better way to make a statement with your shiny new toy than to have him throw to Robert Woods a ton.
I like the Robert Woods pick, and this isn't my shine, but here's why I like it, is the Sean McVay-led Rams have traditionally really struggled against the Chicago Bears. Vic Fangio figured him out, and then obviously we saw what Belichick did to him in the Super Bowl. But one team that is always, or one person who has always seemed to have success against the Bears no matter what, has been Matt Stafford. And you couldn't have brought in a guy outside of Aaron Rodgers who has more film study and statistical knowledge of the Chicago Bears than one Matthew Stafford. So where traditionally this game has been like 17-10, 23-20, that type of thing. I like the Robert Woods pick because I think the Rams are just going to light it up, and we are going to see a really fun offense that McVay is going to employ. So I am supporting the Robert Woods pick. For my pine and shine, all right, I'm going to get to my pine, and I'm going to get this done and over with because I'm going to catch a lot of shit for this, and I don't want to hear it, all right? My pine for this week, and I understand that you can't just sit this guy, but it is, ride the wave for week one. Zeke Elliott is going to have a rough week, guys. Like, the Tampa Bay rushing defense is out of this world good. I would not be surprised. I was telling Derek and Alex this earlier. I wouldn't be surprised if he had under 40 rushing yards. Like, I could see him with 36 rushing yards and 50 some odd receiving yards. What you're hoping for is him to fall into the end zone. You're hoping for him to catch a swing pass or for him to get a goal line carry and fall into the end zone to kind of save the day and still be respectable running back status. But he is not going to be, the first round pick that you would like for him to be against this Tampa Bay defense. They just don't allow it. So I don't see that changing from last year to this year. So just understand what you're getting week one in Zeke. It's not the end of the world. It's just the rushing defense that they're playing is really, really freaking good. So what you're hoping for is like 5 or 6 receptions for like 50 or 60 yards. And if he falls into the end zone, he saves the day. Like, that's what you're hoping for here. My shine is going to be, and this is the second week in a row I've brought this guy up. This tells you how much I'm really starting to feel this guy, is Corey Davis. Zach Wilson is just going to pepper Corey Davis with targets against the Carolina Panthers. Like, I think Corey Davis will see 12 targets in this game. I think he's going to come down with 9 of them. And I would not be surprised if he goes for over $110 and a touchdown. Like, I think Corey Davis' potential stat line for this game off a guy that you were able to take late in the draft if you drafted early, and then the later rounds if you drafted way late in the season, but being able to stick him in your flex spot and being able to say 100 yards and a touchdown out of your flex spot, whether it's running back or receiver, that's a recipe for success. So I really like Corey Davis this week. I think you can start him in a flex position and be confident with that. So he is going to be my first shine of 2021.
I like it. My pine is going to come out of Detroit, and that's Deandre Swift. I've got him as the pine. News is breaking earlier today throughout the week that he's going to be ready to play in week one and that they're planning on utilizing him in week one. But the problem still remains is that he's coming off of a groin injury. I don't think that they're going to give him the full run that they may otherwise do. So he's going to be in a little bit of a limited role, I think, in this, especially when you look at the defense lining up across the way. That's the San Francisco 49ers, who have been a good defense, and they should be playing full strength again. Last year was a bit of a down year for that Niners defense team with all those injuries. So going with DeAndre Swift. I'd be looking to start somebody else in that spot if I've got him rostered. As far as my shine goes, I went a little bit deep down the ADP spot there to pull out Antonio Brown. We already talked about the fact that we think that this Tampa Bay and Dallas game. That's true. We did talk about the fact that Antonio Brown and the Bucks are going to put up a lot of points there. So that's where I'm going there. Any other thoughts here on the Pines and the Shines?
No, I think week one's fun, right? We're going to start to see what these game plans of these teams are, how they're going to use these old faces in new places type deal, and what some of these schemes are going to look like rolling out into the season. Remember, teams keep a lot up their sleeve in the first couple weeks of the season, so don't freak out if Austin Eckler goes out against Washington and they don't do a whole bunch, right? Like the Chargers didn't play anybody in the preseason. Justin Herbert didn't play, Austin Eckler didn't play, Keenan Allen didn't play, Jared Cook didn't play. Like, it's entirely possible that it takes them a half or 3 quarters to kind of get their rhythm. Like, 1 week does not a season make. So no matter what happens this week, do not hit the panic button. Do not freak out. It will look different in the weeks to come.
Absolutely. Alex, any other thoughts on the Pine and the Shine?
No, we need to move on.
All right.
Yeah, I can't.
I made Alex blush.
That was pretty good. All righty, guys. So
just curious how many times you've said that, Kevin.
All right. Anyway, we're moving on. Moving along. All righty. So
the answer is as many as it takes. Okay.
All righty. So moving along, we've got
Derek, you got an ad read.
Yeah, we're gonna head on to this maybe if Kevin lets us here. But so guys, Thrive Fantasy, we've got a partnership going with them. Some really cool stuff going on over there. If you're looking for a new way to play DFS, download the Thrive Fantasy app today on either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. And new users will get 100% deposit match instantly up to $100 when using the promo code GOBFF. Again, that's GOBFF. Shortened up for the good old boys fantasy football. Thrive Fantasy is even running a $100,000 guaranteed contest for week one. Just a $20 entry, $20,000 to first place on that one. They have over under on player props for more sports than just the NFL, including various free rolls that they've got going. And we're going to go ahead and kind of give you guys each a little taste of what Thrive Fantasy kind of has going over there. Again, make sure that you use the promo code GOBFF when you sign up and download that to get your instant deposit match up to $100 on that. So guys, the way they've got this going is you basically pick 10 props on this, 10 over under on player props through it. And if you end up scoring, and each one of those props carries various point totals, things like that. But if you end up scoring, the more points you score, the more, the higher you finish, and the higher you finish, the better the payout on those things. So we each went through and picked an over under on this one. So let's go ahead and kind of go around the table here. Who you guys got on your over unders?
My over-under, I have got Dalvin Cook over a half rushing touchdown. I think he finds the end zone at least once, if not multiple times this week, because I think the Vikings are going to feed him the rock to try and get him started on the right foot. So Dalvin Cook over a half rushing touchdown.
All right. I am going to go with Saquon Barkley under 95.5 total yards. Yes, news is good that he had a full contact day at practice. They're going to reevaluate again tomorrow to make sure he's still feeling good. That being said, he's still coming off the knee injury. I don't expect the Giants to give him anywhere remotely near his normal workload. And thus, I am taking the under in the 95.5 total yards from Saquon Barkley.
I like it. I also took an under on mine. So Alex was the only contrarian taking the over on one of these, but I took the under as well. I took Odell Beckham Jr. having under 8.5 receptions total in that game in Cleveland, which I think that while the Browns are going to pass the ball a little bit more, like we discussed earlier in this one, I have a hard time believing that we're going to see OBJ get 9 or more receptions. So I took what I thought was kind of the easier one.
He's going to have 7 by the third quarter, and Derek's going to be sweating this one out to finish the game.
It will
right?
Be a sweat. I mean, we'll sweat that one.
Right. So, but no, I feel pretty confident in saying that he's going to have under that 8.5 receptions there. So, guys, again, make sure that you're downloading that Thrive Fantasy app. It's a lot of fun. You can check that out. They've got free rolls going. And if you put your deposit in with the code GOBFF, you get that 100% match all the way up to $100. So go ahead and hop on over there, see if you can beat us and play some of that. Guys, I do believe that that's going to take us down to the end of the show. Any final thoughts for the listeners and the viewers?
Stay tuned. We got another show for you coming Friday where Derek and I are going to hop back on and kind of help do some start sits and roster moves heading into the weekend. I know Derek's going to be doing another show Friday, kind of leading us up to kickoff, doing some more DFS plays and some things like that. So lots of content heading your way. Be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, harass us, ask for any sort of help, advice, situations. We love all of it. The interaction is awesome. And all of it is at Good Old Boys FF, wherever you can find social media.
Yeah, the other thing I would add is it's something that we said earlier, is that you cannot win your fantasy football championship in week 1, but you sure as heck can lose it. So just pay attention. Do not freak out if you have a player that your first round player doesn't, score the way that you would like them to. Don't freak. It's a long season. Week 1 is just the start of things, and it's always nice to start off with a win. But again, you can still win the championship if you lose in week 1.
Yep. You sure can. Although I'm not going to lie, that's one of my favorite things is watching some of the people really start to doubt their roster after a poor showing in week 1 or week 2, and just some of the trades that you can pull off there early in the season. So again, guys, be active as you're going into the season. If you have questions on where to make roster moves, trade offers, those types of things, shoot those over to us. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Good Old Boys FF. Kevin mentioned it already, but we are going to bring you that Friday show, 11 p.m. Eastern on Friday night. We're also going to do another show on Sunday morning, 11:45 a.m. Eastern time. So head over.
A special guest for that Sunday show.
We very well might. We're still working some things out there, but I think you guys will like it. So when you guys are, in order to do that, go onto YouTube, find the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, get all those notifications when we go live. For Kevin and Alex, I'm Derek. Have a good one. Be safe.